I'm so excited to kick off this new year with all of you and talk a little bit about word families today, the importance of them, why we should be teaching them, and then some very simple ways to incorporate them throughout the week, Monday through Friday, whether it's whole group or small group center based. I'm going to give you some options for all of that. And let me be completely transparent. These tips and strategies are very low prep, okay? These are not like the huge bells and whistles and craziness that is going to take you like an hour to get prepped for. This is something that is very quick that you can implement. I normally will do these at the end of calendar time, when I already have all of my kiddos together, whether, if you're on Zoom right now doing virtual teaching, or if you're in the classroom and you're kind of finishing up that calendar morning meeting time, this is when I would build in this very quick instruction. Most of it can be done in about 5, maybe 10 minutes. So we're not disrupting your entire schedule using these strategies. So if you're just joining us, this is what we are talking about today. 3 things that you need to know when you are teaching word families. Now, let me be honest, this is a session that is going to be the most beneficial if you are a kindergarten teacher. That is what, we are really going to focus on. That's the level that we're going to be on today. However, if you are a first grade teacher and you have some students that may be behind, may need some extra practice with word families, or you're still using some word families with your students, then this is going to be helpful for you as well. If you are any of my upper grade teachers, you may not find anything super useful today, so I just want to tell you that straight off the bat because I don't want to waste anybody's time. So if you are kindergarten or first grade, you are in the right place, and we are going to get started. So here is a roadmap of what we are going to be discussing today. We're going to talk a little bit about why we should be teaching word families. What is the research behind them? There is a lot of research behind word families and word family studies, or word family instruction, I'm sorry. We're going to talk about some prereqs, some things that you are going to want to have done with your students to help them before you get into word family so that they can be successful. We are going to go over some word family basics. We're going to talk about some activities you can do whole group with your students Monday through Friday. I typically will do one word family a week, and so I'm going to show you what I would do with that one word family between Monday and Friday of a traditional week. And then we're going to talk about some center and independent activity options. So, why word families? Let's take a look at what word families are. So word families, also called phonograms or chunks, provide us with groups of words that have a predictable pattern or chunk. So if you're thinking of a word family, let's think of the at word family. So cat, bat, rat, sat. They are all ending in that same chunk, in that at phonogram, in that at chunk. And so that is going to be something that's predictable for students. And so that's part of the reason that we want to make sure that we're teaching these. These words all have the same ending, and then they are also going to rhyme because they have the same ending. So we're kind of getting a double whammy there with getting some rhyming practice as well. So this makes learning a set of words, also known as a word family, easier for our beginning readers. So it's a very, very good place to start if we have covered a few prereqs. So some things that you are going to want to have done with your students and you're going to want them to be pretty good at are, first off, letter knowledge, okay? Now that doesn't mean that your students have to know all of the letters in the alphabet, being able to ID them as well as produce their sounds, but they need to be pretty proficient at that. If you are gonna throw the at family at them, but they don't know the letter T or what sound the letter T makes, this is gonna be very confusing for them. So you're gonna wanna make sure that as we are heading into these word families, that your students are comfortable with those letter sounds and IDing the letters. Now, I'll be honest, this is not a letter knowledge session. Maybe I'll do one of those in the future. I know some people will do like a letter a week. I caution against that. Because it's going to take you a lot of weeks to get through all of the letters in the alphabet. I would say try to do several during the week and get through those letters during the first bit of school. You're going to have some students that catch on and they're ready to go. And then all the students that need some more support with that, you're going to catch them during your guided reading or small group time. So again, get through those letters so that you are ready to move into word families. Not to say that we need to rush our students along, but I think that most students come into kindergarten knowing a fair amount of letters and letter sounds, so we should be able to pick up and get the ball rolling with that. So letter knowledge, and then the second thing is a little bit of practice with segmenting and blending. Is going to be very helpful if you have done that. Now, again, we don't need our kindergarten students to be experts at this when we introduce word families. But we want them to have some exposure to this, a little bit of practice with this before we jump into word families, or things are going to get a little bit confusing for them here as well. So let's talk about a little bit of basics with word families. So I have markers. Again, I'm in the living room, so I tried to bring everything down. Let's hope I brought everything that I need. If we are working with the at family, we are going to be working with words, obviously, that end with this phoneme, with this same chunk at the end. So I'm just going to write some examples up here really quickly. Cat, rat, sat. Now, what we can think about when we're thinking of word families, sorry, this is backwards. Let me go this way. When we are thinking about word families, is we are thinking about the onset and the rhyme. Now, the rhyme in our word families is going to be that chunk, okay? And then we've got our onset, which might be just an initial consonant if you are doing CVC words, but it might also be a blend. So we might have flat. And so we still have our rhyme, and then we've got our onset here. So again, just something to kind of keep in the back of your head. That's something that we're working on also as we are doing word families. I will say at the beginning of the week when I'm working with my students, I'll show you when we get to the Monday through Friday deal. On the first few days, we are going to be working on blending these sounds together, putting them together sound by sound. But I want to transition my students during the week to where we are doing more of an onset and a rhyme, because what we want to do is make sure that we are teaching our students to recognize those familiar chunks. That is one of the key benefits of teaching word families, is as they're decoding words, is that they're recognizing these chunks in new words that may not just be a CVC word. So that's kind of like the progression throughout the week. Now, I already mentioned this, but I do one word family a week. I'm not going to try and do too many. I think if you have gotten through your letters and you've done a few of those a week, then one word family a week is enough. Some may disagree, some may want to do more, but I think one is kind of that nice sweet spot to make sure that we get students really familiar with that word family before we go to the next one during the next week. And then the other thing that I will add is you are doing one word family a week. So maybe every 4 weeks or so, maybe if you've gotten through, half of the short A word families that you're doing, you want to have a review week. You don't want to go through all of those word families without having some time to review. And this is when we're going to put all of those together. We're not going to get too much into the reviewing today. If you have specific questions later on after watching the rest of this workshop about what you should be doing during those review weeks and how to bring all of the different word families together, just send me a DM or send me an email at theteachingtexan@gmail.com. I'll be happy to talk you through how I review word families once we've gone through about 4 or 5 of them. So let's talk about a week in word families, okay? So let's pretend it's Monday, and we're going to get started with our brand new word family. What I'm going to do is pull up this anchor chart. Now, this is something that I would have pre-made for my kiddos. Again, sorry, this is backwards. I'm trying to figure out which way to go so you can see it. There we go. So this is something I have pre-made. I learned a long time ago that when we are doing our word families, we don't need a whole huge anchor chart. If that's your jam, go for it. I just use, this is actually 2 pieces of construction paper glued together because I don't have any of the large construction paper here. But if you have the large construction paper, that's the perfect size for one of these anchor charts. So we'll start off with this hanging. This is a routine. So the students know every Monday we are going to be looking at a new word family, and they are going to know that it's going to start off blank here, and we're going to work together, again, maybe at the end of your calendar time or at the end of your morning meeting, whatever, whenever you have them whole group, we're going to work through this. So the first thing that we want to talk about is we want to talk about what is this word family. And I like for the kids to try and figure this out on their own. We're going to blend these together, it. Okay, so we are learning the it family today. Now, normally what I will do is I will give them the first picture on here. So I'm just going to draw these as we go. And just like every teacher, I always say, now Mr. Sizemore is not an artist. I know you probably said that plenty of times yourself. But I might give them an anchor word that we're going to start with as we go. So I might start with the word dip. So I'm going to give them a quick picture of some dip, maybe some salsa, which sounds absolutely lovely right now. Okay, and then the important part is not so much the drawing, right? This is something that's going to help our visual learners and be able to give them something to refer back to, but I don't need to spend all my time on this. If you are someone that needs a beautiful anchor chart, go back later when your students aren't there and redraw it and make it beautiful. But honestly, it's not really going to make a difference here. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to model how I am going to separate that onset and that rhyme. So I know it's in the ip family because I hear ip at the end of dip. And so I'm going to start off with the first time I hear d, d. And normally the students will call out and they'll tell me that we've got a D sound. This is also a really good time if your students are adding the schwa onto the end of the sounds of letters like duh instead of d, then you can go ahead and correct that as you go. So you can get a ton of skills worked in when you are working on these word families. And then I like to use a different color. Normally I will keep the word family chunk all the same color, and I'll just switch colors of the pictures as we go. And then they will help me out. Well, this is in the ip family. I see I and P. I know that's ip, ip. And so we will add that up here. And so I'm not going to go through an entire anchor chart here with you, but from here, once I have modeled that one, then students can start sharing some of their examples. Now, a really cool thing you can have the students do as you're working is you can give them just literally a sheet of white paper. You can put a circle in it in the middle if you want, and have them create their own little anchor chart that they can keep with them as you're creating the one that's going to hang up in your classroom. That's something that's super helpful as they move around to different centers, or if the center's coming to them, whatever, that they have it right by them. So again, we're going to try and fill this up. Now students are going to be going through and helping me. Now here's the thing. Sometimes students are going to get stuck and they're not going to be able to think of any other words that end in the ip family, that belong in the ip family. And so a trick that you can use with your students is, I'm sure you have an alphabet strip or chart or something somewhere in your classroom, or if you're virtual learning, maybe you can have one, pop up on the screen, or you can hold it up for them. And we will literally go through the alphabet and take each of the consonants. We won't use the vowels in front because we don't want to put an A in front of here and try and figure out that word. But we're going to go through and we're going to put each of the consonants in there and see if we can come up with some more words that go in the ip family. So for example, the first consonant in the alphabet is B, B, ip, bip. No, that doesn't sound like a word. So then we'll go to C, K, ip, kip. Now, yes, we know that kip, K-I-P, is an actual word, and so students may latch onto that, especially if you have any kiddos that are in gymnastics. I know that because I grew up in the gymnastics realm, but you could go ahead and add that on here. Again, this is not about spelling and getting the beginning sounds all absolutely correct, because we know that the C can make the same sound as the K, but it's about recognizing this chunk at the end of the word. So, that's Monday. Tuesday, what we are going to do is we're going to take that same anchor chart, and you can either use the anchor chart or you can put the words onto kind of like a flashcard kind of style, whatever works for you. And we are going to practice going through and reading those words. So literally think of it just like a list of the words that you in your classroom came up with that belong in that word family. And we're going to go through and practice reading them. Now, at the beginning of the week, we are going to try and segment each of these sounds. So for the example of dip, d, I, dip, and put it together and keep going through. Again, as we go through the week, we want to start making sure that we are focusing on that onset and that rhyme so that we've got that chunk there. So then it would be d, ip, dip. And then if we have one with a beginning blend, maybe clip, cl, ip, clip. So that's what we're doing on Tuesday. Again, this is a very fast practice for them to be able to go through and read. And you can do that on flashcards too if you prefer that. If you want to do it like on a PowerPoint and present it up on the screen, that's something you can do as well. Wednesday, we are going to work on building these words, and I like to do that with magnetic letters. Now, I know right now, maybe you don't have a full set of magnetic letters for all of your students, but you could create literally just print the alphabet out on a sheet of paper and then just cut those letters out onto squares. I'm not saying like cut around the letter. Just do it really quick, really easy for you. But I'll show you with how I would normally do it with magnetic letters. And so, of course, we are going to have our word family chunk that we are practicing. Now, if I was really, really prepared for today, I would have already had a group of letters up here that we could pull from to add on and try to create some words that belong in this word family. But let's go ahead and let me just grab a few out of my box. Okay, now this is a really nice thing to have if you are able to have each student having their own set of magnetic letters, because we really want their hands engaging in this, and we're kind of modeling and we're doing it together. So we give them a little bit of model and then we're doing it together. So whatever you can do to get something in their hands, even if it's just little letter cards, give them little letter cards or have them write on a whiteboard, whatever, so that they can do this with you. So, sip, s, ip, sip. So remember, we are starting to transition to wanting to recognize this chunk here, this word family. And so I'm not going to sound out each of these two letters. I'm going to read it or sound it out as the chunk. So ip, sip. We could work through. This gets really fun when the kiddos are trying to come up with them. I'm just showing you how we go through it fairly quickly. Ip, grip. Okay, so you get the idea. That is our practice on Wednesday. Now, I would not recommend doing that as your Wednesday practice if you're not able to somehow get something into your students' hands. Now, if you're virtual learning, the rules are completely different, and you do what you can, and what you are doing is enough. I promise you that. So if you're virtual learning, you do this and model it, and if you were able to get your kids supplies or they have them, great. If not, don't worry about it. But if you're in the classroom, I highly suggest that you have something that the kids are actually moving with their own hands as you go through and create the words. Thursdays, I like to have a little bit of whiteboard practice. And so I'm going to show you two ways that you can do this, just kind of depending on where your students are with learning the word family. So I'm going to remove those magnets. And so all the students have their whiteboard. And so we might just start off with very simple, asking them to write the words from our word family. Now, you can have your anchor chart hanging for the students who need that support, the one that you made on Monday. And you can tell students, hey, if you want a challenge, don't look at the anchor chart and do it from memory. Do it with your knowledge. And either way works as we are working through this. So maybe I ask students, write the word slip. And so on their whiteboard, they're writing the word slip. Now, the really powerful thing about this is they're sitting there with their whiteboards writing, and you can see. You've got yourself a little assessment right now. Are these kiddos getting it? Right? It's Thursday of this week. How are my kids doing with this word family? Okay, well, I see that, Fernando, for slip, wrote sip. Okay, well, he's got the word family down, so that's good. We need to work a little bit on the beginning blend here, but you know what? He's got the idea of this lesson, so this is something that I could just make a mental note. I could just jot it down, maybe in small groups. I'm going to introduce him to a few blends. Maybe he's ready for that. And so students are going to work through that. What I like to do, if students are rocking through this, they are really good at this as a whole, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start having them substitute sounds, okay? So, for example, we've already done lip, okay? I asked the students to write it. 90% of them got it, no problem. Okay, go ahead and change the ul sound in lip to a t sound and write the new word on your whiteboard. And so now they are going to substitute that initial sound, that onset, and we've got the word tip. Okay, so that's another level that you can take that practice to on Thursday if your students are ready. If they're not ready for that, then just have them practice writing the word family words as they are without adding on that other layer of substituting sounds. All right, and then on Friday, I keep putting this whiteboard down and then I keep needing it for the next thing I'm going to talk about. One thing I did not bring down with me is my eraser, so we'll use our hand, that works. Friday, I like to play a game. It's Friday, it's fun, and it's called Takedown. Now, I have the rules of how you can play Takedown on my blog. You can find those, but I'll show you very quickly. Let's just pretend we are socially distanced, 6 feet apart in a circle. It's easiest played in a circle. Just for space, I'm not going to draw all the students you might have in your class. And let's say this is player 1. So I'm just going to write a 1 there. That's who we're going to start with. Now, using the words from our word family, from our anchor chart, we are going to go through and play a game where the first student, let's say the first word is tip, player 1 is going to say the first letter of tip, T. Then it moves to player 2. Player 2 says the next letter, I. Player 3 says the third letter, P. Player 4 says takedown, and player 5 has a C. We start over. Now we've got a new word. Maybe it's clip. Okay? We've got, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Player 6 is going to say the first letter, C. Then it goes back to player 1, L, I, P. Takedown. Now, here's what's interesting. This friend said takedown again. So I like to play takedown, not to where we're taking everybody down, because then this poor kiddo that got out right at the beginning, what's that friend doing? That friend is sitting there during the entire game watching the rest of the students play. So what I like to do is this friend said takedown. Well, guess what? This friend's going to go ahead and pop back up because takedown just happened to happen with the person right in front of him. And so then that friend is going to start the next word. Okay? Very simple, no prep at all. Pretty much everything I've shown you is very, very low prep because I just want to keep things real. This year is crazy. You don't need all the super fancy bells and whistles to get some really good word family instruction. So we've gone through the week. We've gone Monday through Friday of introducing this word family and then making sure that we have whole group practice every single day. Okay, it's not something that I'm going to introduce on Monday and then we're just going to have a test on it on Friday. I don't even believe in testing on this, so that was a bad example. But what I am saying is that we want to have authentic practice every single day. So what can students do if they are in centers, if you do like kind of like daily 5, or just as an independent practice for them? One thing that I have loved doing with my students to practice word families is word family crafts. So I've got one example, pretending that we're still on the IP family, and that would be having them make some IP dip, okay? So these are super, super simple. Literally, I just printed it on red paper, and then you can see I've got some examples right on here of the IP words. Now, this is something students are going to do on their own. What I would do is I would take that anchor chart that you made on Monday, and because it's so small, I'm going to go hang it if you're in centers. Now, if all the students are working on this together, you're just going to have it at the front of the room. But if there's a certain table or whatever, however you're running centers, which is probably a little bit different now, but I would move this as close to that group as possible. So if it's over on the other side of the room, I'm going to go hang this over there on the other side of the room where they can see it easily. Anyways, they are going to go through and they are writing the IP family words that they can think of. Now, what's really fun here is to challenge them to come up with some IP words that are not on our anchor chart because we probably didn't get all of them. There's probably like 20 or something that we could have come up with. Didn't get all of them. See if you can come up with some more. And the really nice thing about these is you can determine how many words you want your students to be writing. So they're getting that authentic practice of writing with the word family. Again, just like we did on Thursday with our whiteboards. And maybe some students, they just need 3. You know, maybe you've got some students who are a little bit slow at working, and they just need a little bit more support. Not that they're behind, they're just, we have students that are slower workers. Maybe that friend is doing 3, right? Maybe you've got friends that are, they're ready to go, and you just say, you know what, see if you can do 9 today. See if you can get 9 IP words on there. And then if a student finishes early, flip it over. We can practice writing some of our IP words that we came up with in sentences. So again, getting authentic practice. Or I like to have them do a book hunt. So if you've got a book, let's open it up. Let's look and see if we can find some words that belong in the IP family. And then we are going to jot those down on the back of our paper. So there's some options for friends that have finished early. Now, I want to show you some other options for these crafts. And just do plain white paper. Sometimes I'll do that and the kids can color them when they're done if they finish early. Stencils, could have them trace. So what I like to do is how I had it in here. All of my supplies for that one word family craft are in that. So I can just take that, make my copies, we're ready to go. But if I'm using stencils, I don't have to make copies every year. I printed these one time on cardstock, pre-cut them for the students, and then they are going to trace those onto just construction paper in the classroom and cut them out. That's another option. You could also have them just create the shapes on their own, or just on white paper and then cut those out and color them. Lots of different options for those. And I actually have, that's part of a resource. It's a short vowel, a CVC word family, well, not just CVC, but a word family craft bundle of resources that I have in my TPT store. There are, I think there's 44 different word families in it, and all of them have, I think it's 44. I don't know, I would have to go and check. But there are 2 word family crafts for each of those. So you've got for IP, you've got your dip, but then there's another one that's drip. Okay, and so it's kind of a different picture, but the really nice thing about this is that when they're working on these independently every week, they already know the expectation. They already know that we are practicing coming up with our IP words, and then we are adding them to kind of like their own little anchor chart that they're going to take home, and then they know what to practice on the back if they get finished early. So it's predictable, but it's different every week because you got the different craft. It's sometimes, for the og, it's a frog on a log, right? So you got like double whammy there. But it really keeps them engaged. I promise you, for 3 years we did these in the kindergarten class that I was in, and students love them. Absolutely love them. And it's a great assessment piece too. That's your assessment at the end of the week. How many did we come up with? Is a certain student relying heavily on the anchor chart? And that's okay because some students need that, but it's just something that as you're informally assessing, you can kind of keep in the back of your mind. So I am about to hop off here for the day. Again, I cannot see your comments as they're coming in, but if you have questions, what I want you to do is either send me a direct message, comment on this video, go back and check the comments for any questions, or send me an email at theteachingtexan@gmail.com. And I also wanted to mention that resource of the CVC or the Word Family Crafts is 21% off today and tomorrow. 21 because of 2021. That bundle's normally 10% off just because it's a bundle, but right now for today and tomorrow it's 21% off. So it's a really, really great deal. If you want to snag that, I will put the link right here for you. It's just theteachingtexan.com/wordfamily, and that will take you right to the listing, so you can check that out. You can also, if you only want it like the A's or the I's for word families, then you can just grab those separately as well. Those will be on sale today, tomorrow, 21% off. If you are watching this on replay and it is not January 1st or 2nd of 2021, then you can still grab them at 10% off. They just won't be 21% off anymore. And again, y'all, just let me know if you have any questions. I'm so thankful that you showed up today and that we did some learning together. I hope that these are strategies that you can take and you can start implementing immediately. I didn't want anything that was crazy bells and whistles. I want you to be able to feel prepared and ready to go. If you're already teaching word families, great. Maybe these are some new strategies you can try. If you have not started with word families, maybe this is a good little motivation to try them out and see how it affects your students and their early literacy skills. And maybe we'll make this a weekly thing. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll start doing some lives and talk about other things. If there are other topics that you would like to see Facebook Lives about, let me know. Just drop me a comment, and I will see all of y'all later.